Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are looking at the Star Jewel, which is actually out of my book considered the Hutt space yacht. Now, when we get to looking at this, we'll bring up a nice picture of this. Um, this is the same one that we have for a thumbnail. Uh, Looking at it, it has a very similar look as to what we actually have for Java's floating yacht there on Tatooine. So, um, characteristics we actually have the space cruiser's interior was dominated by Jabba's throne room, which featured a giant single piece transparent steel observation dome. It was where Jabba and his entourage resided when on board. His personal quarters were located in the aft of the throne room and features two smaller observation domes. The starship also featured a kitchen, an armory, and several guest quarters equipped with hidden spying devices for the Hutt to keep an eye on his guests. The space cruiser was staffed by a crew of droids also featured a small landing bay that held two small landing shuttles, and also stationed the Star Jewel Guard, a complement of six Z-95 Headhunter starfighters that served as escort for the Star Jewel. Jabba the Hutt also kept several Kel dragons on board his starship and would feed prisoners to them for entertainment. Kyle Katarn was one of those, or was one of the only victims to survive a battle with a Kel dragon, and upon retrieving his weapons and escaping the dragon den, he proceeded to exterminate Jabba's entire complement of beasts. Jabba's space cruiser featured two rear vanes, which served as ailerons for atmospheric flight, and three retractable rods on each side of the ship, which provided a place for the maneuvering jets, um, allowing the cruiser to reach atmospheric speeds of up to 800 kilometers an hour. The space cruiser's armament included six illegal hidden CEC turbo lasers mounted beneath the superstructure of the superstructure's ridge, rather, which were powered by the vessel's reactor core. It also had a powerful tractor beam that could capture even a Hawk 290 light freighter. Okay, so in the history of this, we have Jabba's space cruiser was a custom Urberkian Minstrel class space yacht, which the Hutt used to transport himself off world. The ship was known for its gaudy appearance and for the shady business dealings that took place there in it. The prison barge Purge was attacked and boarded by Jabba's yacht in 33 BBY during a routine delivery of prisoners and supplies to the Cog Hive 7 prison. Darth Plagueis, escaping from an attack from his fortress in Sojourn by a coalition of forces allied with uh, King Ars Narvuna, or geez, I'm listening to the book too, and uh, I'm it's helping me a little bit here, but I'm still struggling. Uh, Varuna of Naboo was picked up by Jabba and the Star Jewel in 33 BBY, which is where we really get the ship. Han Solo as he was beginning his career as a pilot, once flew the Star Jewel. He once had to fend off a pirate attack on the vessel using his expert piloting skills. In 5 BBY, Jabba took the Star Jewel on a business trip and filled his cargo bays with goods. It also brought him into conflict with the Gar Scarpoon, Princess Napi, and Calbro Noon or Noom. After he encountered the Nampi, he took Nampi's guards prisoner on the ship before deciding to eject them into space. After a long trip, Jabba was happy to see or set the jewel down on Tatooine once again. Um, as always, and I've said this many times, I write my own adventures and I come up with these goofy names and all that to make it sound so much like what we have in Star Wars or even in Star Trek or whatever. But sometimes when you're someone else trying to understand what we're seeing here, even on names that sometimes I've heard a number of times and I've never seen them written, it gets kind of hard to do at times. So, um, again, a lot of the science fiction actors, they complain about this stuff, trying to understand how to say this stuff because you can write it down, and when you look at it, it just seems like it's a letter sandwich here, and we're just trying to figure out exactly where to start eating on this thing and how to pronounce it correctly. Um, so, continuing on, it was on board the Star Jewel that Java first encountered Koakian monkey lizard Silbaceous crumb around 2 BBY. The mischievous crumb stowed away on the ship while it was at Corwin Space Station. And Java nearly had him killed when the creature ruined his meal shortly after the ship took off. But once Crumb humiliated Java's henchman, um, Bildo Curve and Bib Fortuna, um, on the way that amused the Hutt, he decided to keep Crumb around. Um, Shortly after the Battle of Yavin, the Galactic Empire developed the Dark Trooper Project, and Java and his smugglers were helping to deliver the materials that were needed across the galaxy and supplying the Imperial Arc Hammer. The two rebel agents, Cal Katarn and Jan Ors, went to Nar Shaddaa to steal a Nava card the smugglers were using. The jewel was waiting for them above the moon, and as they were leaving on the ship, uh, the Moldy Crow, it was caught by tractor beams from the jewel. Ors was imprisoned on the ship brig, and the Nava card was confiscated, and Katarn was stripped of his gear and brought to the lair of Java's favorite Kell dragon, to which Katarn was forced to feed it, or to uh, was force fed to, and we kind of already read some of that. No, um, so where we get the appearances is Darth Plagueis, and I've got the audiobook, so I can kind of cheat, and I admit, yeah, I'm kind of cheating. We have Maul Lockdown, the Hutt Gambit, Jabba the Hutt, and the Gar Sapoon Hit, the Hunger of Princess Napi. I'm sure I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. The Dynasty Trap, Betrayal, the Crumb for Hire, and we have Dark Forces, which is the first time we actually get to see it, and then Dark Forces Remastered. So, and going through a lot of this stuff, we have um, Dark Forces Official Player Guide, Essential Guide to Vehicles and Vessels, Instant Adventures. Um, yeah, here's customizable card game, pocket model, which I might have. I had gotten a whole bunch of those. Dark Forces Remastered, which I don't remember ever playing that. So, it's a lot of this stuff that the role playing game and a lot of the novelization really comes hand in hand with each other. And then we get to see not just how the ship is from the books, but then we also get to see how it is in the game. So we get to kind of, as they've always stated in the old West End books, you know, you can't or don't go out and kill Jabba the Hutt, but you can kill his Rancor, and he can always get another Rancor to replace the one. Keep the story itself going from what we had from George Lucas. You can interact with people, all that. Maybe you have good dealings, bad dealings, whatever. But the whole thing is don't mess with George Lucas's story. Make your own, and that's how we got all this stuff. Um, a lot of the writers were always I'll say in some regards very honorable on how they kept the stories going, interacting with a lot of the characters, having them continue on their missions and the trials and um, the turmoil that they went through and the galaxy went through. But this is where we are. All right. So we have modified Ubrican space yacht. This is general alignment, rise of the empire, source Tempest feud, the essential guide to vehicles and vessels. So this is right out of my book. I didn't really feel a big need to copy and paste it and everything else. I figured I'd just leave it right here. This is a modified space yacht. Of course, it is capital scale at 115 meters. We do have a crew of 8, passengers of 112. Has a cargo capacity of 850 metric tons, 6 months worth of consumables, and if you were to try and buy something like this, you're looking at it roughly about 1.1 million credits. Um, we have a times 2 hyperdrive with a backup of a times 14, and of course, a vessel of this type is going to have a hyperdrive or a nav computer. I'm sorry. We have a maneuverability of 2D, so it is fairly maneuverable. It is a slow vessel. It is a space yacht. It is not meant to do all the fighting of its own. Has 800 kilometers an hour speed in atmospheric flight. It is pretty resilient at a hull of 5D. We have shields of 2D. Our sensor packet here has passive scanners searching out at 2.5 kilometers. Our active scan is going to be 5 kilometers. Our search is 7.5 kilometers, and our focus is 300 meters. So we do have 6 turbo laser cannons, 2 in the front, 1 in the left, 1 in the right, and of course 2 in the back. These are capital scale. Has a fire control of 3D, so that is pretty respectable, and it has a damage of 7D. So looking at it in that regard, this can hold its own for quite a while. Being a fire control of 3D, and this is capital scale, if it did have to go down to a regular starfighter, you're only going to have a 1D, so you are a little bit better off than some others for trying to shoot at a smaller scale vessel, but still, these are really meant to go against other capital scale ships. Um, when we look at it in these regards, I guess you could say, how fast is that going to be able to swing and track something in that regard? A capital scale ship is going to be another slower moving vessel, and it may also be easier to hit, or it's just large enough or long enough that you may not be able to keep exactly on it exactly, but you're going to keep hitting at it. So different ways to look at it. Okay, so that's really the stats we have. It is a beautiful design here for keeping in a tradition of how Jabba had his um, personal yacht skiff. So keeping in that regard. And we do have a wonderful schematic of it. So we have on the sides here, and it actually goes down here through all this. So 5 is our engine power feed chambers. We have our 6, which is our lift going up and down from different decks. 2 is our observation deck. 1 is the audience chamber. 3 is Papar's suite. 4 is our passenger quarters. Let's see. We have our observation deck dome, so that's being right here on the top. Let's see. We have our passenger deck, which is 8, which is along here. 9 being our crew deck, and then 10 is our cargo deck. So it is always nice whenever we can get schematics and other lookings of how this is all done and presented to us and all that. It is really kind of nice in those regards. So whoever had compiled the book, which I honestly don't know offhand, because this was after West End Games had actually kind of gone under, but they did come back. So I don't know if this was another one of their doings that they had kind of done it, but I doubt it because they had lost the license. So they had done 3 generic books, which was their space, adventure, and fantasy. So um, which I will still I sometimes reference those for different ways to run um, some of the stuff in Star Wars, trying to keep it a nice, fast paced uh, way of doing combat and stuff like that. Because the story is great. Sometimes the us guys are sitting there jaw jacking a little longer than maybe we should, and I'm just trying to get through everything and get the adventure done because. West End Games had originally said keep your adventures roughly about like a half hour, and I think that's really a good golden rule for a lot of stuff. You know, we can always paste adventure with adventure and keep things going, and it can be kind of like a series, a television series or something like that. So when I think of my adventures, whether it's doing Star Wars or Dungeons and Dragons, or we're doing Fallout, or if I was to grab our GI Joe and put it in here. Um, at some point, I would like to get some thoughts on maybe doing a Transformers and adding it into here. There's easy ways to doing all of this stuff with a system that's nice like this. GURPS was meant to be able to be very easy to modify because it's a generic um, role playing game. Um, Trying to remember how it is. Generic is part of it. I think is like generic universe role playing game, which is what GURPS stands for. Um, Even if you're doing Starfinder or any of the other wonderful games that are out there, think about it as you know the group you have are really the actors in your show. They're my characters that get to do all the silly things. I get to create a world for them to run around in or an adventure for them to explore, um, which is wonderful for me because I have that creative bug. I'm terrible at writing, um, and I can do small little things like this. That keeps me kind of occupied and happy, and my mind is got its own little zone that it can be in to try and create stuff like this. So having all the different ships from anywhere I can pull it from, and how do you fit it in here, whatever, always kind of helps. Having another ship like this, even though it's unique to Java, to say that maybe he didn't have a bunch of these created and he sold them over to some of the other Hutts. Another wonderful thought. So, um, just how things go. Hope you're enjoying the series. I enjoy bringing this to you every day. It is just wonderful to see how the variety of ships and how massive the universe really had gotten after George Lucas had done what he had done, and he opened it up to other authors and other people to try and help flush out the rest of the universe. And here we are today getting to see how the fruits of those labors were, and for me to be able to bring this to you. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.